Hello friends, my name is Derek Henry, founder of Healing the Body and creator of the Thrive online health program. And I have a question for you. Have you ever had to overcome a disastrous health condition or even are in the process of trying to figure it out right now? If you answered yes, you're going to sincerely appreciate and find hope and motivation in my rags to riches health story. First of all, I grew up in a small town, a farming community, and spent the first 5 years of my life in a farmhouse with very little plumbing and no furnace. I bathed in a sink, used a wood-burning stove and electric space heaters for warmth on cool fall days before moving to the house in town for winter, and went to the bathroom in only an outhouse. Living on a conventional farm, there is plenty of herbicides and pesticides around and being sprayed on crops, along with plenty of other toxicities that played a large role in determining my future health consequences. Now, as a young child, I had all the typical medical procedures done, including about 8 teeth that were filled with mercury amalgams. That, combined with 10 years spent in public pools and baking chemicals into my skin and living on a conventional farm, were the setup that I strongly believe eventually led to my escalating health issues down the road. Now, significant things started to happen just prior to the rapid deterioration of my health that began in late December of 2004. Unexplained traumas like a shoulder injury from a harmless action playing competitive broomball was the first. It was the most pain and discomfort I had ever experienced from a very innocent play that should never have been an injury, let alone as severe as it was. I also had chronic sinus issues and eczema patches on several areas of my back, under my armpits, and other areas of my body. However, the day that marked the rapid loss of my health began in late December from doing a band workout to get back in shape. The next day, my hands and arms felt like they went from healthy to completely arthritic. Eventually, I went to a physiotherapist who told me that it certainly wasn't normal, so I started to book in for physio appointments. I did this for a month or so, but the pain didn't subside. Eventually, I succumbed to the idea that I had to go to the doctor, which I didn't want to do because I didn't want a diagnosis, and I don't like being poked and prodded. By this time, the pain was no longer just in my hands, but in my neck, down my arm, and in my wrist. So I met begrudgingly with a doctor in the spring of 2005. He quickly recommended blood work. Since I hate needles and didn't want a diagnosis, I delayed going to get it done. But approximately a month later, I went and did it and was called back into the doctor's office not too long after. So the doctor told me that I had arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and it hit me like a ton of bricks because I was only 30 years old and I was actually trying to be healthy for the past 10 years. Then he wrote me a prescription for the pain. It was at that moment that I said to myself that there's no way I'm living with this pain and being on medications for the rest of my life. It is not happening. I had no idea what I was going to do, though, as I had zero idea around nutrition, remedies, therapies, etc., and how to solve the problem. I felt hopeless, but fiercely determined at the same time. So for the next 6 months, I used the prescription for pain on and off because the pain was so unbearable and I couldn't stand it. But I also didn't want to be on it. Plus, it would make me feel worse in many other ways. So I take days off from the medication to see if by miracle I was improving and to see if I was getting worse, but didn't know it because, the medications numb the pain. So I didn't know if I was getting better or not, or worse. Unfortunately, I quickly found out I wasn't getting better and that I needed the medication at that moment if I wanted any semblance of sanity. So at this point, I had to deal with extreme neck pain on my left side, a ridiculously swollen wrist and hand, painful shin splints, and plantar fasciitis. I had to lay down for hours a day to get the neck pain to calm down. Since my neck mobility is about 10% of normal, I had to be very careful when driving, backing up, etc. because if I moved it slightly too much, I'd literally feel like I was tearing something in my neck. My blood literally felt like acid running through my veins. I couldn't open doors with my hands without extreme pain, so I often used my forearms instead. And at night, I was going to the bathroom 3 to 4 times, which severely interrupted my sleep. And anytime I had to pull up covers, I had to experience extreme pain in my hands and wrists. That's how serious it was. Some fingers would only bend 25 or 50% of their usual range of motion because they were so crippled. I had blood in my stools. I had pain in my tailbone area like I had sustained a traumatic injury, like falling on it, when indeed I hadn't, so it was just sheer amount of pressure or inflammation in that area. I also noticed a suspicious mole on my lower back, which was changing shape and color, so you can draw your own conclusions on what that was. Now this went on for about 6 more months. I was simply managing my days as best as I could while in the background I was planning on getting married and my contract job was about to end, so I had to find new employment on top of saving money in case I didn't, and also for an engagement ring. Now, finally, in December of 2005, I was referred to a talented massage therapist, and she ended up working with me on average 3 times a week for 60 minutes a session for the better part of a year. During that time, she noted enlarged lymph nodes in my neck, which I knew about, and she found a small golf ball sized one on the inside of my left bicep, which I didn't know was actually even there. It took most of that year to work it out completely. She took the edge off my symptoms, and I worked with her for about 2 years. I also worked with a chiropractor during that time for about 6 months who adjusted my neck weekly, in which relief would only last 2 to 3 days. I also ended up getting insoles for my shoes due to the constant foot pain that felt like plantar fasciitis. I was literally in a living hell. But then the real beacon of light occurred in September of 2007 when I was referred to an article on broccoli and how it could heal cancer. Now, it was sent to me as an info to consider for my then father-in-law that was dying of cancer and did shortly thereafter, and for me to consider eating as well for my health. But little did I know that that was the genesis of me going down the rabbit hole of how to become healthy in a world that I later realized was set up to make us sick. I went deep and studied every day for 3 hours or more a day and made constant adjustments to my diet, supplementation, lifestyle, and therapies. Now, only a couple months in, I felt much better. I no longer felt like death, but I was nowhere near the woods yet. Fortunately, I found out some great Amazon herbs, some excellent greens powders, and astaxanthin, a nutrient that ended up killing 90% of my inflammation and got me completely off my pain medication. Now, this was huge in so many ways. I had a relief I hadn't felt in almost 3 years, and I could actually think and do things I hadn't been able to do for years. Now, at this point, I was taking every superfood I could, drinking green smoothies every day, eating salads, taking $300 worth of supplements monthly, going to massage and acupuncture religiously, and that's just for a start. I was just starting to get into mindset at this time, but nothing in terms of meditation, which was still a fluffy idea at the time. But then in the fall of 2018, I got the idea from a biofeedback specialist that I may indeed have a candida overgrowth, and when I studied the symptoms, I realized that I had one in spades. So I began a new journey of further cleaning up my diet. So over the next 3 years, I managed to mostly eliminate my arthritic condition, most of my skin disease, my shin splints, and shoulder pain. The neck pain was down substantially, but proved to be the longest standing symptom I could really notice. This was great progress considering I was also planning for a wedding, honeymoon, dealing with job stress, deaths in an extended family, 6 and 3 years, and being a new dad. So being so limited in my diet, I did drop down to as low as 137 pounds, which was a far cry from my healthier 175 pounds I was before. But weight didn't matter. I wasn't going to die from weight loss, and my body told me I was doing the right things for me at the time. I also had a scent that I couldn't shake no matter how much hygiene I had, which I later chalked up to festering bacteria in my body, most likely in my small intestine. Now, the next big leap came in January of 2011 when I started a diet focused on mastering the digestive system. Did it for 60 days, and it had a profound effect on my health. The amount of things I eliminated in that time was ridiculous and really gross, and I'll spare you the details. But it's safe to say that parasites, gallbladder stones, and lots of toxic bile was being eliminated from my liver. After it was over, I felt less pain, lighter, more coherent. My residual neck pain and range of motion improved a lot, and everything just felt significantly better. Now, not long after that, the family went to California, 2 kids under the age of 4, to live in a house with a modern-day healer. And although it had its challenges, I learned a lot more about supplementation and other areas of health that gave me a greater understanding of the body and how to resolve health issues in a more systematic way. I took that info, along with the other 3,500 hours of research I had gathered, my 6 years of personal experience, and over $35,000 spent on supplements and therapies, and eventually created my own health program to help others, which eventually became the base of my Thrive online health program. So things continued to gradually improve with my health until late 2013 when I did the infamous liver gallbladder flush protocol. Hundreds of stones were eliminated again, this time more forcefully than through the diet alone. After this flush, my general issues with digesting foods high in saturated fats was greatly reduced. So by this time, I felt completely normal, but I was still unwinding deep, long-standing issues with my digestion, liver, thyroid, kidneys, and my adrenals. I started to discover more info on the harmful effects of EMFs and how to meditate to reduce stress and achieve better health. I continued to do small protocols for these areas over the years using superfoods, herbs, nutrients, home remedies, therapies, mindset mindset techniques, and more. During this time, I had begun writing for Mike Adams at Natural News, which was a bit surreal, and I'll explain that in a minute. And I ended up doing that consistently over a period of 3 years, in which I wrote probably over 300 articles on ways to naturally improve your health and reverse health issues, primarily through nutrition. It was also during that time that I launched my Thrive online health program, which was the fall of 2014, and even had Mike decide that he wanted to be a partner on its launch. This is a big moment for me, as the site I referred to earlier that I had an article on broccoli was the site that is now Natural News. So the very platform that arguably helped save my life, I ended up writing for, and eventually became one of the most popular writers, and the man who started it all, Mike Adams, wanted to partner with me on the launch of the program that only existed partially due to the education I received from his knowledge at that time. So as you can imagine, it was a real full circle moment. Over the next 5 years, I basically unwound all my long-standing health issues, which include 13 chronic conditions that plague me, through a completely natural and holistic approach. These conditions included, but are not limited to, candidiasis, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune issues like leaky gut and hypothyroid, swollen lymph nodes, prostatitis, liver and gallbladder problems, kidney and urinary issues, allergies, heartburn, chronic fatigue, eczema, anxiety, and pancreas problems, all while dealing with other unintended consequences as a result of this hard journey. Now, I call this a 1 in a million journey because being able to overcome the dire consequences I was in, primarily on my own, and not only overcome symptoms, but basically clear all sources of existing health issues, turn back the clock in the aging process, and then develop a program like Thrive, which took about 1,500 total hours of work to help educate and empower others to overcome 20 disease conditions and counting, is unfathomable when I think about it. This is why I'm so confident about my knowledge and approach, because I lived it and overcome it in an epic battle that lasted about 10 years, and now help others overcome whatever condition they want to heal, or just enable them to be a healthier version of themselves, much more efficiently and faster than doing it on their own. So thanks for taking the time to tune into my story. I hope it gives you not only hope, but some direction on where to go next, or create the level of health you desire. After all, knowledge isn't real power. It becomes real power when it is organized and you can take action on it to produce a desired result. So although knowledge is nice, don't be the person who cites facts who still struggles behind the scenes with your health. Be the person who can proudly show the results and be a beacon of light to others who look up to you, count on you, or appreciate you. That's where real change is made, being the example of what you want others to be. If you want to be guided or mentored to do it much faster and more economically, check out my Thrive program I mentioned earlier. You simply can't go wrong with it. So, until next time, I hope you enjoyed my story and that it benefits you in some way. I also hope to meet some of you someday through my Thrive online health program. So, until next time, thrive on, my friends.